So in this, I just have it's kind of like a red eye. It's
Okay.
Cold brew, shot of espresso,
Yep.
shot of hazelnut, and then a shot of our Better Ways CBD tincture. So
cool.
it's a grapeseed oil base, caramel, vanilla, and you can throw that into hot or cold coffee. Blends in nice.
Very cool.
And I'm a big fan of coffee and cannabis, whether it's a fresh cup and a joint, or infusing the coffee itself.
Welcome back to our favorite part of the week. It's time to listen to Sounds of Health, where we share the stories, people, and resources that help others to improve their physical, emotional, and financial well-being. Whether you consider yourself a health enthusiast, a wellness warrior, or you're simply looking for information, guidance, and inspiration, you're in exactly the right place. I'm your host, Dave MacNiven, and today I'm excited to welcome our guest, the owner and co-founder of Better Ways Cannabis Therapeutics, Duncan Markovich. Duncan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me this morning.
Did I get your last name right?
Yes.
Okay, good. There's a couple of ways when I read your last name, how I want to pronounce it, and then how I know it's pronounced. So I'm like, I'm going to mess this up.
No worries.
Okay, great. So I'm really excited to have you here. Very quickly, before we get into kind of your background, just tell us a little bit about Better Ways and where you're located and what you do.
Sure, absolutely. So Better Ways is a brick and mortar health and wellness hemp CBD store. We are located at 1122 Main Street, downtown Branford. This, I think another week or two, April 15th, we'll be celebrating our 5th year.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. It kind of flew by. So yeah, we've been there, and we focus on educating the community, whether they've used cannabis or not, about the endocannabinoid system, which is the system that interacts with the cannabis plant and its function within us already, making sure that products are, sourcing is of the highest, and testing results are there's a lot of transparency with that, so people know exactly what they're getting and where it's coming from and who's making it. And then trust, affordability, but the education component for sure is this is a new, I shouldn't say it's new, but it's being reintroduced to culture and society. So there was, in end of 2018, 2019, there was a lot of hype. You saw CBD, you saw those letters, gas stations, grocery stores, all over the internet. People are like, what is this?
Yeah.
But in fact, this plant's older than us.
Right, of course. Yeah.
So yeah, we've been, that's the focus of Better Ways, is to provide a safe space for anybody to come in.
Yeah.
Whether you're, 21 or elderly, and everywhere between, a novice user, experienced, never before. You just want some information to understand what it's all about.
Yeah.
And then as we progressed year after year, and expanding into the ever rapidly growing cannabis industry here in Connecticut, New England, across the country, just finding our place.
Yeah.
Making sure people get the right information and the right products.
That's great. I love the focus on education, especially. I think that's extremely important for people.
Very much so.
That's great. Now, how about your background? Like, how do you even get started into this industry? What brought you here? Give me a little bit of that.
Sure. Much of my journey with this plant, as with many others, is usually health related. Just very quickly, I've had 4 open heart surgeries since birth.
Okay, yeah.
The last one was in 2010. I almost lost my left leg for a surgical complication. I ended up being bedridden at Yale for about 120 days.
Wow.
On a lot of opiates, IV opiates, with that healing journey. And my healing process and exit, titrating off those opiates with their direction. And then I finally got to a point where I'm like, I want to clean my system out.
Yeah.
And I don't want anything more. And they really only offered Suboxone as an answer to that. So I went cold turkey. I was only on the IV Dilaudid for, roughly 90 days, but it took a full 30 to detox. And I wish in those moments, because I did it cold turkey, like that was hell. I would not wish that on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
I do wish at the time, and this was before Connecticut's medical program had started, but I do wish at the time I had access to cannabis to use in that withdrawal process, because, recently and since then, many people have, and there's a lot of evidence showing how much it helps.
Yeah.
But what it's really helped me with was the daily pain management and nerve damage that's been a consequence from that surgical complication.
Something you're still dealing with now?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Yep. Even today. It's, the rain, the cold fronts, the pressure differentials, the temperature swings. It's not an old wives' tale.
Yeah, right.
If you have an injury, your body is a barometer.
Yeah.
And so when things are not, shifting or I wouldn't say imbalance, but changing, you can feel it.
Right.
So cannabis for me is my daily medicine. I consider it my multivitamin. I consider it my pain reliever. I consider it my therapist. It's
serving a lot of purposes.
Many.
Yeah.
Many.
Okay. So having that experience, that particular health challenge is what prompted you to get into this field?
It kind of organically opened up so after that complication, that was my first therapeutic interaction with the plant.
Gotcha.
I'd certainly prior used the plant for recreation, but that understanding the immediate decrease of pain management, my anxiety, the neuropathy for sure, that lightning bolt feeling and you can't control it,
right?
And then it's like a searing pain through your whole leg, and it spreads like electricity would across a cloud.
Yeah,
I guess that's the best way I could describe it for my sensation. So it's profound what this plant can do, and especially when you are consistent with it, and so that shift towards not only understanding the therapeutic side of it, but experiencing it firsthand.
Yeah.
And with such amazing results, I was like, I knew there was much more to this plant than just, getting a joint passed to you at a house party and, laughing and having a good time with your friends or something, and again, there's nothing wrong with recreating that way. That's a great way for people to unwind without alcohol,
Yeah.
So then that was the deeper dive. Where am I being pulled? What does this mean? And then in 2000, again, with the change of the 2018 Farm Bill Act, federally legalizing hemp and hemp-based products, that opened up this whole hemp and CBD thing. So using that as an opportunity with my personal and professional career, that was the shift. It
was 2018.
2018 was my original business partner Paul Stecker and I started thinking about it and seeing what was happening of those three letters being everywhere, and us looking at each other, be like, we know this plant inside and out. He uses cannabis he had aggressive stage 3 untreated Lyme disease.
Oh, wow.
And it almost left him paralyzed until he realized what was happening to his body. And by being educated, he then used cannabis to aggressively reverse what was happening to him. And it helped him, again, this plant helps us profoundly. Yeah. And it's just, but it is about who's growing at how, all of that, it's
all of that factors in.
If you're rushing this plant, you're not going to get the medicine you're seeking. And unfortunately, that is one of the situations that our state is in right now with our
Gotcha.
our structured environment.
Gotcha. So back in 2018, when kind of the laws started to shift and you started to see those letters everywhere, that's when you started to get into it. You said you're going to be 5 years in business. So what is that? 2019 you opened the business?
Yep, April 2019. We filed and established it January 2019.
Okay.
Prior to that, it's been an interesting life. I've mostly been a sailing instructor and a camp counselor in my youth.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask about. Like, what brings you to here?
Yeah. So that was
so a sailing instructor and a camp counselor
for up until 26.
Yeah,
and then I needed actual health insurance.
Usually, that's what prompts people to get into the.
And then I ended up at TD Bank for about 6 years. I started. 2009, I finished undergrad. I immediately started grad school, and then I found out I needed this other heart surgery. So I had to take the medical leave of absence. The complication happened. Then I returned to school and I graduated. And then I, as I approached 26, I was like, I need something different.
Yeah, sure.
And I started part-time at TD. And then they quickly saw, how much I could help them. So they're like, you're gonna be over here as a financial advisor. Grateful for everything I learned. Yeah. Grateful for all the kind and smart people that were along the way. But then when that law changed, I was like, this isn't just a business opportunity. Like this is my lifestyle and my passion. Now I can bring that, just like sailing. Like there's no better moment than when you share your own personal moment of like joy and ecstasy of like, teaching a kid or teaching an adult how to do something, and then you see it light them up.
Right.
So now I could do that with cannabis and really help people in a way that I've been longing for.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So now this is your full-time
This is it. This is every moment that I'm awake, that I'm asleep, in between.
You're thinking about the business.
No, I'm thinking about the plant and the people.
Yeah.
Always. It's not, again, there is a business to this industry, but and it might sound a little ethereal and esoteric, but the movement that's going on right now with plant-based medicine, especially with cannabis and now psilocybin, is profound.
Yeah.
And this is going beyond just, how do you make a living? This is how many people are you helping to then help all the other people, and that consciousness shift and everything that our planet and species is so desperately in need of for the next step in our evolution. Because we're at a very unique tipping point in our existence on this planet. There's things that we're tapping into that we don't really know what the outcome's going to be. CERN getting turned back on in during the eclipse that's coming up. Like, so again, there are things we know and things we know not. Yeah. And these plants, particularly cannabis and psilocybin, help people do that deep dive, do that inward work. Like it happens. Like if you lean into it and trust it, it's going to heal you in so many profound ways. Yeah. But it goes back to proper education, proper sourcing, the people involved. And so when you say, am I thinking about the business? I guess I don't use that word though. Sure. I think of how the societal infrastructure looks like and could look like. I mean, the hemp and the CBD and the THC and that side of cannabis is just one component. We still have industrial hemp that used to run this country. That's how we founded the country. There were laws that if you owned a certain acreage of land, you had to grow industrial hemp to support the shipping industry, textiles, rope making, all of it. Yeah. We've lost our ways to the dollar and corporate culture. And there's not much free market capitalism when just the big corporate juggernauts rule all of it.
Right. Yeah.
You know? And this isn't to throw shade at the banking industry, but being exposed to, I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars, and just you get desensitized to what money is, which is great because money's nothing. Just like the stock market's nothing. It's a perception of value.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But that's a different story. But I'm grateful that it's not about the dollar amount that gives it value, meaning, sustainability. It's the people and the plan.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something, when I use the word business, because I'm a business owner, it's not with the connotations that it's all about money.
Right.
To me, it is about the people. It's about the service you're providing, and the what you're providing to enhance the community, make the world a better place.
100%.
So that's when I talk about business, when I think about what you're doing, it is your business. It's your life, right?
Yeah.
Like this is your mission.
Yes.
So
Telos.
business is not a bad word. It's actually, it's a good part of all that you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I wanted to take this conversation that way because in this emerging industry, there are a lot of people who are only in it for the money.
Yeah.
And
any industry.
And the business. Like,
of course.
They don't get it. They've never grown this plant. They've never, given somebody dying, suffering without money, free meds.
Yeah.
Like, here. There's no reason why you can't have this. You can't afford it, then take it. See if it helps. And if it helps, then we'll figure it out. And if it doesn't help, you tried, you know?
I can only imagine, like in your industry and with what you're trying to accomplish, there are some major challenges. I think one of the first challenges is the stigma that was attached to it for so many years and is still by certain people overcoming that. But now the legality of it has changed, and that's turned on the water faucet of people that do see the opportunity to make money on it. So now that's another challenge, right? Is you have so many people coming into the industry. So how are you navigating through all of that? And what is your plan? Like, what do you see you doing in the whole thing?
Okay.
It's a big question.
That was like 3 questions.
It was about 3 questions.
Okay.
So you could take it one at a time.
Yeah, sure. So the shift.
Yeah.
Since this kicked off, the legality of it all.
Yeah.
Connecticut probably has some of the most unequitable and restrictive cannabis laws in the country. The rollout of all of this has been a little insane with logic. But I can say these things because I have been a part of a great team of colleagues and passionate individuals that are at the forefront of this. We go to the Capitol. We testify in the public hearings. We actively speak with our legislators.
Yeah.
We see the moves of these big out-of-state operators who have, again, the endless capital. The concept of growing this plant like a commodity and rushing it and just having product to move isn't doing this community or patients any justice. It's like Anheuser-Busch growing, mass producing Budweiser. That's what this is, but they're claiming it's of a medicinal value. Connecticut has the highest allowable limits of mold and bacteria in our medical marijuana program. In 2022, through Freedom of Information Act requests, test results from the medical program were received that weren't in compliance with state law and had these higher levels of mold and bacteria. And that was brought to the attention of Governor Lamont and Michelle Siegel, who was the head of the DCP at the time, the Attorney General. And we said, hey, like, what's going on here? And it almost felt like a Scooby-Doo moment, like, you meddling kids. And then they had a meeting, and then they upvoted the allowable limits to 10 to the 4th. So I believe us, Florida, and Michigan now have the highest limits in the whole country. And it's telling.
Yeah.
Because it's like, hey, we can, like, let's button this up. Let's have some better SOPs. Let's grow safer meds. No.
SOPs are what?
Standard operating procedures.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
That's also the bank life of just constant acronyms.
Oh, insurance world too.
Oh yeah, of course you get it. So we were like, hey, this isn't like, can we change the practices to have better meds? And they just widened the goalposts. Because this isn't federally legal, each state will have a protocol of how to ensure quote unquote safety is applied. So there are 4 operators in this that have been in the state of Connecticut since 2015. We are the only state in the country that runs a pharmacology model, which is why the DCP is involved. So they, have sort of oversight on all of it. And there's no, like Massachusetts, there's the Cannabis Control Commission. Like there is an entity to work alongside a regulatory body to make sure there's a buffer between the community and the government. Now the government has, 2 entities that oversees all of it.
Yeah.
And Connecticut still has yet to have that, other sort of filter. When the decision was made to increase that allowable limit, at the time there were 56,000 medical patients. None of them were alerted at all. That would be like there being an E. coli outbreak in a grocery store and the health department being like, you don't have to tell anybody. That's telling. No. That's a big red flag from our legislators' perspective to the community. Not only are we telling you this is unsafe, you're not going to care and you're going to say these companies can do what they want. It's really about a lot of money.
Yeah.
There is multi-billion. Colorado just had a crazy amount of tax revenue in the billions.
So not to go too far down the rabbit hole on this, because I do want to bring the conversation back to, how we're bettering the community and those things. But when it comes to that side of it, is there a place that people can go if they want to learn more and educate themselves on it? And where would you send people for that?
To learn more about the plant itself?
To learn more about what's happening with the regulations in the state of Connecticut, maybe to advocate or to get involved.
Okay, yeah. So cga.ct.gov, you can find your legislator, look them up by your municipality, write to them about your concerns about cannabis, write to them about perhaps your experience in a dispensary.
Yeah.
There's a statewide flower shortage. There's price gouging and price fixing, Why would you change your prices when you don't have competition?
Right. So for people who are actually already benefiting from all of this, it's probably important for them to remain on top of that.
Absolutely, right? Because the prices keep climbing.
Yeah.
And people are adjusting it in their budgets, but they're still not getting what they need. For me, the shift in legislation and these large companies having a lot of capital to influence lobbyist efforts, which then change laws. Last October, a law changed here in Connecticut with regards to hemp and CBD products. There is a federal law saying there is a dry weight ratio between THC and the rest of the product. And as long as that ratio remains almost like a 1-to-1, basically the denser the product, like the edible, the more THC you can put into it. But it's balanced, right? It's not just THC. So some of those ratios were higher milligrams than what the dispensaries could legally use at 5 milligrams a cap. And this is another problem, is how cannabis is being marketed and that information is being released to the public. Just because there's more THC in a product does not necessarily mean it has a more medicinal value. So at 30% is the cutoff for medical grade in Connecticut. And if you don't have a medical card, then you don't have access to that other stuff. For me, that's an inherent issue. I think everybody should have access to all the things, and that the companies that are receiving people from the community that need this plant should be better caregivers and not gatekeep certain levels of medicine.
Yeah.
It should be about education, and it should be giving people equal access.
Sure.
And again, so for me, that law with the hemp and CBD ratioed products changed in October, and I had spoken to many legislators about this before their final decision. And it has now makes me turn away patients I used to help. Many of them, it was for palliative care. Many of them, it was my friends' parents who have cancer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not easy.
No. So it's hard to be doing this for so long the right way.
Right.
You know, this is not I'm not trying to be brag or what have you, but I've won best hemp CBD alternative health and wellness store, best on the Shoreline, first placed for 4 years. If you're doing this right, nobody should come and tell you how to stop helping heal people, especially when those people aren't even from the state of Connecticut.
Right. Okay.
So that's been hard, is to have your native Connecticut resident legislator making decisions against a native Connecticut small business owner, because people with money are trying to filter the industry to just them and their singular licensed market, which our recent general law chair, Mike D'Agostino, said was not a monopoly. So it's telling, and it's difficult to see the macro side when daily all you're trying to do is help heal people with federally legal medicine.
So you have a lot going on. So
There's a lot.
There are a lot of sides to what your business is doing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The lobbyist side. I'm with the Connecticut Cannawarrior activist advocacy group. There's the Connecticut Small Business Cannabis Alliance that all formed because of these big companies coming in. The hemp and CBD industry in our state was abandoned pretty much, even though we were, we helped get Lamont reelected. He ran his whole platform with Senator Cohen to give failing Connecticut farmers an opportunity in this new industry.
Yeah.
And then there was no, not real engagement from the state other than make sure your products aren't illegal. Not, let's have meetings, let's have business classes, let's see where we're going to be in 5 years. What are we looking at for industrial hemp? What are those market verticals looking like? It was like, here's your licensing, thanks for getting me reelected, and you're on your own. And now the lobbyist efforts from these other companies who do not have our best interests and do not want us to participate in it holistically. It's regulatory capture to a definition. It's very obvious what's going on, and it's because of the money. And it's my friends have closed their businesses. Food has been taken off at workers' tables. Farmers are shutting down again. This is nuts. And so this is the reality of it. So what do we do, right? Every state has their own problems. There's no caregiver program here. There's no safety here. So, and then going back to those safety standards with the flower, they will remediate the raw plant material. They'll soak it in ozone, or they'll microwave it. And then it's chemically inert, and they get it tested, and then it goes to the shelf. Why can't people in Connecticut see what their meds looks like before they buy it?
Right.
It's a mids level product with a high-end retail boutique experience to rapidly and aggressively pay back the shareholder who is concerned with their amortization schedule of their ROI.
Sure, yeah.
Not how many people they're helping.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that are going wrong in the way that the industry is structured here in Connecticut and probably all over the country.
Yes.
You are part of this community, though, that is advocating and going after the legislators and trying to make positive change. So this community is something that other people can get involved in if they also feel passionate about it?
Absolutely.
And where would they go to do that?
They can reach out to me at Better Ways. They can go to our website, betterwaysct.com, Better Ways LLC on Facebook or Instagram. Email us, come to the store. There's many different ways to get involved.
Great, yeah.
My biggest piece of advice is, again, going back to education, is know what you want to talk about or how you want to get involved. Mm-hmm. And really, for everybody, stay in your lane. Don't pretend to be something you're not. Don't pretend to give somebody a false hope where, this is people's medicine.
Right.
And you have to be really sincere and genuine, because this is a hyper self-regulating industry, like on the community side and the people that are actually doing the work. There is, and this is the other narrative that hopefully these bigger operators will understand. There is plenty of space for everybody. You're going to operate. You already have the licensing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of work. There's a lot of support that comes with this. The state of Connecticut will have, less than 100 licensees over the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. The state of New York just issued like 180 provisional licenses last week. Like, this is crazy. The gatekeeping is crazy. We need to open the market. There are many. We need a caregiver program.
Yeah.
We need direct grower to patient relationships, legal ones.
Yeah.
We need a better infrastructure and not just what's going on here. So that's been the more recent change of like, okay, I get established. Mm-hmm. This industry's opening up. It's great. People are really focused on their brands and making good meds and building good relationships with their community. And now it's like, now we have to defend something that we built by people who aren't even here, and so you just kind of like do that double take of this was difficult enough already.
Yeah.
But now it's like, established and we're helping people.
Yeah.
But now I'm getting kneecapped how I help people.
Yeah. Right.
Both products on my shelf and then other operators to try and squeeze me out.
Yeah.
That's not what this country is about.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all feel the frustration of that and how tough that must be, especially because it was such a long journey to probably get to the point where you were able to open and able to provide these services to the community, and then it just got harder. And I can definitely feel that pain for sure. I think for me, it's important for people to figure out ways to get active, to get involved in a positive manner, so that they can help to make positive change in these things. So I think you're obviously a wealth of information here for people, and I do encourage people who are interested to get involved. I think there's a lot of information that people don't have that we all should probably learn more about, and especially because of what it's doing on the other side, like you're saying, helping people to be healthy and really helping with pain management and to change their lives. I'm curious about a couple of things. I want to get into your actual business and what you're doing for people, but also how does it connect right now to the medical community? Has the medical community started to embrace any of this, or is it still separate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have all the varying degrees, and going back to the stigma that you were bringing up.
Yeah.
Because of the Marijuana Prohibition Act of 1937, the endocannabinoid system wasn't taught in medical school because it wasn't federally legal anymore, so doctors wouldn't have any access to those tools per se, even though before this prohibition and like all throughout the 1800s, the cannabis was the top 5 ingredients in all medicines. I mean, cocaine was too, but that was a different time.
Yeah,
yes, they had a lot more to do.
Yeah.
But this, we have an endocannabinoid system. We don't have an opiate or an alcohol system. So very quickly, you can simply think of it like this. That endocannabinoid system is a network of receptors that interacts with molecules we naturally produce to promote head-to-toe balance called homeostasis. The molecule levels we produce daily are affected by water, exercise, alcohol, food, the weather, stress, all the little things that we not take for granted, but we just go throughout our day, not really wondering about. So that system's built into us. It's overlaid over many major bodily functions, and it, again, promotes so many micro-balancing things that the more we focus on our endocannabinoid system, the better our lives get. So there are many receptors in that system, but the two big ones are the CB1 receptors and the CB2 receptors. The CB1s are located in your neural tissue, throughout the nervous system, and along your spinal column. The CB2 receptor starts under your tongue. It's down your GI tract, really densely populated in your upper intestine. And then your extremities and your skin is another CB2 receptor site, which is why the topicals work. So when you used hemp-based cannabis products daily, a lot of great stuff happens. First and foremost, you flood your body with more molecules to help balance and supercharge your endocannabinoid system. Hemp is intrinsically low in THC. So for people who don't want to get high and want to keep their mental faculties about them, but need and benefit and experience all the healing power from the cannabis plant, this is a great option. And then hemp is very high in the CBD molecule, which is mainly known for its strong anti-inflammatory properties. So I just tell people, this is a multivitamin. You have problems sleeping, take some full spectrum hemp products about an hour before bed. If you have pain in the morning, throw some in your coffee. It's but again, it's an individualized experience. Of course, I recommend, even with the hemp and CBD stuff, for people who have never experienced cannabis, slow and low. You can always take more. It's hard to take less.
Gotcha.
So, but again, educating people how this works, right? But in a manner they can understand. It's not rocket science. This isn't neurochemistry. I mean, some of it is, but for in general, right? But that's the other thing, is these points of contact within the community. What are the education levels? What are the training programs? At the bank, there was a very set standard of continuing education and training and constant attention to being on your game and learning how the banking industry is changing and what laws affect how you interact with your customer. How are dispensaries on the forefront of that? What's the information they're providing to them? I don't know. The state says, there's a law saying there's supposed to be training. I have yet to see eyes on it. I'm very concerned with how, just if I were to be at a bank in New Haven versus Wallingford versus Madison, you're going to get a very similar experience.
Right.
I don't think that's happening within the cannabis industry, and that's where my concern lies for the patients at the end of the day.
And so with Better Ways, what is first of all, how big is your staff? Is it just you, or are there other people there?
It's me. I have a few colleagues that help out. We have, a great network of other small business owners and not-for-profit organizations within the cannabis sphere and beyond. So it's definitely a community and a tribe mentality of just like, if you like, and you see it, you can tell who that corporate Chad is. You can tell the people who are just in it for the money and their quarterly returns and the new car. And
Sure, yeah.
like, if you're not talking to me about protecting the plant and the people and getting people in, Connecticut jails out for, nonviolent possession while 4 companies make millions of dollars in Apple-esque looking stores, like, I don't want to talk, like, I'll talk about projects. I'll talk about making meaning and bringing more value and positive evolution to this scene and genuine experiences for everyone. Because that's at the end of the day what everybody's craving. Just like this.
Right.
The storytell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But again, as this industry starts and settles and moves and evolves, some of these corporate operators are doing okay things. And some of them are doing so much harm on like a political level, a financial and energetic, a healing level, like that stigma, that worry, that fear that's been going on for the last 90 years or more. It perpetuates it.
Right.
It continues to, for those in power with the gatekeeping and the money, it continues to influence them to misunderstand this plant, the community, the potential, the restrictions. Right now, any restrictions on this plant are just doing this planet a significant disservice.
Yes, I mean, I think it's clear you're operating within a certain industry where there's a lot of constraints and confinement. Like how you mentioned that, Connecticut is probably one of the most restrictive places in the country right now when it comes to this. I can see how frustrating and difficult that all is. But for people out there who are looking to get relief and looking to benefit from this type of a service, I'm curious as to what you guys provide. Is there a training or a certification that people get? Like when they're going into any of the other stores or if they're going into one of those dispensaries, are there questions they can be asking to know they're getting, good information? And again, going back to the medical community piece of this, are doctors now embracing this? Are they telling their patients, and how are they referring to you guys or to other people in the industry?
Yeah. So on the medical side, ours started, sales, I would say, started 2015 or so.
Yeah.
And with Connecticut's pharmacology model, in order to originally own or operate a medical dispensary, you had to be a licensed pharmacist or an MD. So right there, that's big pharma, that's big medicine, that's big money, that's that whole culture.
And that's the dispensary that's dealing also with THC and CBD, correct? Or no?
No. So the rollout was, we had the medical program, which was for medical patients only. You had to have, you had to meet a certain requirement defined by the state that would say, this is acceptable. You're a medical patient, and then you pay into the program. 2021 is when adult use possession began. And we unfortunately followed in the similar pattern as many states of like, okay, it's legal, you can possess it, you can smoke it, you can have it, but no one can sell it. So where are people getting this from? That, in a legal sense, that would push people to Massachusetts or other places that were already within a legal recreational framework. But then in theory, they're committing, a federal crime by crossing state law with a controlled substance or an illegal substance. So as this all progressed, an issue like that, or the hemp and CBD laws at the federal level with the Farm Bill getting restricted at the state level, we are in a cannabis civil war, so to speak, between what's going on at the federal level. Are they going to reschedule it to Schedule 3, which then ushers in more of the medical big pharma side of it?
Okay. Or
are they going to deschedule cannabis completely? Like they should be treating it with the Department of Agriculture as like a food crop and a health supplement. and not a controlled substance. This is crazy.
And that's what the schedule is.
Yeah, Schedule 1 is like no, at the federal level, it's like no medicinal value. It's super dangerous. And so again, it's like, you just follow it. The federal government owns a patent on cannabis and knows its healing powers.
Yeah.
And they sit on that patent. And who knows what'll happen once if it gets rescheduled.
Right. So then back down to your level and what you're doing.
Yep. So then it's weird. It's like the state of Connecticut is telling me I can no longer work with federally legal products. Yet, while at the same time, the medical and recreational marijuana programs are breaking federal law.
Yeah, they're not set up properly.
So they, you can look at like a cannabis license is just an imaginary piece of paper given by the state. At the end of the day, you're breaking federal law.
Right.
Yeah. So it is a time to be alive, so to speak. It is the Wild West with this.
So to open up your place, what kind of a certification or what kind of training did you need in order to do that? Or did you just have to get a license? And what does that licensing look like?
So there were licenses for cultivation, manufacturing, extraction, processing, which was like if you were moving bulk, hundreds of tons or pounds of it.
Yeah.
There was no CBD dispensary license. It's federally legal.
Yeah.
These are non-intoxicating products. For me, I initially, for undergrad, was biomedical engineering. I wanted to be a cardiothoracic surgeon. I wanted to understand what happened to my body and my heart and how to help people actually like with the surgical procedures.
Yeah.
About 2 years into that engineering degree, I changed. It was a lot, and rightfully so. It should be a lot, but it wasn't the undergrad experience I realized I wanted to have. And I switched to political science, and then I went to get a business master's in sustainability. Mm-hmm. And then that was when the heart surgery happened and the opiates. So having been exposed to, even before college, just my mom always said, you are your best advocate. Like if you're not keeping up with these conversations with these doctors about your heart or your lungs or this and that, ask the questions. And if you're not asking questions, you better be writing in the notebook. And if you're not writing in the notebook, hopefully somebody else is there helping you, because those 15 minutes or half an hour, that goes fast for them. So fast. Right. And it's a different kind of interaction. Yeah. And then it's definitely a different kind of interaction when you're in the hospital bed. I'm sure. So from a very early age, thankfully, both my parents were like, we're going to just immerse you in as much medicine and understanding how your body works so you can be educated and make better choices for your health and wellness. Right. And of course, growing up as a kid, I never did that. I was,
what kids do, yeah.
Right. But now, I'm so grateful that I had that kind of support system to get me through, those near death and actual death experiences. Yeah, I'm sure. So, and that for me affects how I view time. Mm-hmm. Most 30-year-olds haven't died, Yeah. So and again, we all have our stuff. We all have our traumas and experience in life that like profoundly change us. Right. But the one thing is we all have a very finite amount of time. This is all impermanent. This is all very fleeting. Very true. Yeah. We're all struggling. We're all, worried about a lot of the same stuff. So while we're all quote unquote suffering, perhaps in a Buddhist mentality, as we journey through this life, how are we helping each other get through it? Because it's beautiful. There's so much beauty in this experience. There's so many profound, genuine moments that we'll never forget. But how are we supporting our fellow person and helping lessen their suffering if we can.
Yeah.
For me, I just want people to know that this plant can help them.
Yeah.
And it can help them without getting high.
Right.
Or if they need that, then they have the right understanding and methodology and protocol where, it's not like you tell somebody who's interested in drinking, have the whole handle at once. Find your own limit, right?
Yeah.
No. But that's the other thing. There's 2,200 liquor store points of sale in the state. And there's like 19 dispensaries.
Yeah. Well, it's new. I mean, it's an emerging industry. And I think it needs a lot of education. It needs a lot of growth. There's obviously a lot of challenges with it. With Better Ways, what is it you're providing to the community now? I went onto the website earlier today and saw just the different products, and I was overwhelmed by all of these things. So talk more about the products you're offering and how you're helping people. Topicals,
gummies, tinctures, which are oils. We don't work with any alcohol-based products. If people are in recovery, some people use cannabis tinctures with grain alcohol, and we want to make sure. Food allergies, there's coconut based, there's hemp seed based, there's grapeseed oil based, there, sunflower, vegan gummies, seltzers. The topicals are really impactful. We have our next round of agave nectar and local raw honey from Branford from my friend's farm.
That's great.
Again, these cannabis can be looked at as another tool in the toolbox for balance, just like drinking enough water or exercising or eating right or not drinking a lot of alcohol. This is just another tool in the toolbox to help people create a healthier lifestyle. So you can have different delivery mechanisms. Some people... if it's someone who's elderly, maybe they have dentures, maybe chewing on a gummy might not work, but they have a cup of tea at night and they need help sleeping. So the oil goes in the tea. It's already built into your schedule. It's already into your lifestyle. So just how and where you need the plant and helping people understand that I'm already doing that. I just have to do this quick little thing and that's easy.
Yeah.
Or leaving the sleep gummies on their nightstand. It's right there. Right?
Yeah.
And for me, my favorite moment is when people come back. When people come back just to say, it worked. I can't believe it worked, but it worked. Everything you said and more.
Yeah.
Or those other moments where people come and they work on themselves and they work on themselves and they work on themselves and then you don't see them. And then they come back and you're like, it worked, and it worked so well that I don't need anything anymore.
That's great.
That's the next step,
right?
Right.
Yeah, that's the goal, right?
That is the goal. Is that level of balance.
So what are people prompting themselves what's happening in their lives that are saying, okay, now we're going to go out to Better Ways and find a solution? How are they finding you?
I think there's some frustration with pills and side effects and
for sure,
and the impact that prescriptions have on the mind, on the kidneys, on the liver, on the other organs. Because at the end of the day, pharmaceuticals are just chemicals trying to replicate what already happens in nature. Physiologically, we developed by adaptogenic plant-based medicines. That's why the endocannabinoid system developed in our bodies at all.
Yeah.
So why are we relying on the automation of chemicals when we have thousands of years of plant-based medicine that our species has relied upon forever? So it's like this reawakening. People are tired of the status quo. They're tired of being told, I get a lot of people saying, my doctor just doesn't listen to me. They're in, they're out. Oh, I'll just modulate your prescription like that. I don't really care if it does or doesn't work. At least that's the vibe. Hopefully they care.
I think, that's some people's experiences, not everyone's.
Personally, with my I've seen both sides of it. Yeah. You know, I've had to advocate with very stubborn, you know, and that I think that can be, you know, the phenomenon of the doctor doesn't listen to me. I think that is because sometimes there's ego, pride. I have the medical degree. I was in, you know, this field for so many years. I'm the expert. Sure. But you aren't me. You can't tell me what I feel. You can't tell me what I know is going on inside of my body. So if you're truly a healer and a health practitioner, then you'll open your ears a little bit more and stop and pause. I get it. You know, being, you know, that major last surgery in 2010 before COVID. And then I had another major operation after COVID, and it was night and day. That was 9/11 for every hospital.
Yeah.
So that shift of psyche and their trauma and their culture shift and how their SOPs of like, you know, you got to deal with the patient. You know, you got 15 minutes. It's in and out. It's quick. Yeah. That's I don't know. I think it needs to slow down just a little bit because people are, you know, patient advocacy, it falls through the cracks. You know, a lot of people are like, well, they're the doctor, they must know. So then it's a weird pull and push of trust and information. And well, you've been my doctor for years, and I've been on these prescriptions for years.
Yeah,
like I literally had somebody come in and said, I've been on blood pressure medication for years and my blood pressure is here. And then he tried some of this. It's a Google review too. And he said he tried some of the CBD gummies and he said, this is the first time that my blood pressure has dropped in points.
That's great. So people are having some type of a challenge with their health and they're just looking for another option. And so they're finding what you guys have to
alternatives.
offer.
Yep. Safe, healthy, non-intoxicating alternatives.
And where are you sourcing all of the products from?
My product line, which is our full spectrum, meaning all the parts of the cannabis plant, the hemp plant are used, including that small amount of THC.
Yeah.
Because really quickly, cannabis describes the plant material. The amount of THC present determines, do we call it marijuana or do we call it hemp?
Okay.
It's the same thing. One gets you high, one doesn't. So this is the avenue for people who need the plant, but it doesn't get them high. So even a full spectrum product, that's 0.3%. It's not enough, but it does naturally form on the plant. So it's going to be in there.
Right.
So I have a full spectrum, this coffee tincture, and we have a night tincture with some herbal ingredients in it to help people sleep. We have a broad spectrum higher dose tincture, meaning all the helpful parts of the plant except any THC derivative is intentionally left out. And that was our tincture line was something that we focused on initially. That broad spectrum product without the THC helps first responders, medical professionals, you know, people who have a super sensitivity to THC, like the elderly too. Yeah. People who can't have it in their system for work, or people who just don't want it in their system at all. And then the last step is like an isolate product, meaning any one of the 120 molecules could be just the feature in the product. So that is like a topical. You know, there's a lot of isolate topicals out there. I personally don't like ingesting anything that's broad spectrum or, you know, like less than broad spectrum.
Yeah.
I want as much, in chemistry, it's called the entourage effect, when all the molecules are working together as a team. So some of this language is pertinent for somebody who wants to make sure that, you know, a dispensary or a CBD store or things like that. So first and foremost, always make sure there are third-party lab-tested certificates of analysis. These are the test results. These make sure that there's no result manipulation. You want to ask about sourcing. You know, is this a U.S. product? We've only ever worked with U.S. products from the beginning. our product line, which was the tinctures I mentioned. We have honey, we have agave. Sometimes seasonally we'll have hot cocoa.
Are you sourcing it all locally?
Yeah, okay. So my products are sort of a collaboration design with my licensed manufacturer, and he's in the state of Connecticut, gotcha. And he's licensed in Connecticut and Rhode Island to make products. He had a chemical engineering background. He went to Johnson & Wales. So in terms of like food, cannabis products, right on the money. Yeah. I'm very blessed, and I do attribute that to our education platform and our quality of products platform, because these little bottles are usually that's a 30-day supply. Mm-hmm. So, and people are like, I'm making that leap. I'm listening to what you're saying about how this could work with my body. I'm trusting you. I'm giving you my money, especially. We were open for 11 months. Then the pandemic hit. Yeah, then we had to shut down. Then the state was like, you guys can be considered essential because dispensaries and liquor stores are open. That's also when I learned more about why liquor stores are open at all as an essential place, because of alcoholism and chemical dependency and people going into medical issues if they don't get alcohol, and they didn't want the beds of the hospital full of alcoholics going through detox while people were coming in with COVID. It's been a really wild ride, and then coming back into a recession. So people are really concerned about, where's my dollar going,
right,
and what value is it bringing to my life.
And there's more products out there than ever.
There was such an abundance, and people were thinking, well, it says CBD gummy in the gas station, and it says CBD gummy in your store. Aren't they the same? The lack of information, out there is always a curveball, and you just have to be resilient and steadfast and as transparent as possible.
Of course,
because to have those moments when somebody trusts you with your advice, and then they take it and they do it and they see the benefits, and it improves their lives in the way they were seeking, or in other ways they weren't even prepared for. I think that's just the heart of what this should be about.
Yeah.
And that's priceless for me.
Yeah.
Can I just chime in about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So having experienced your store and going into your store, the way that you have about yourself is very trusting and open and honest. And that's first and foremost super, super amazing when you have a journey involving THC and hemp products. I remember the first thing you said to me when walking your stores, like what's your experience with cannabis? And just honestly, and everyone has their own experience, everyone has their own journey, everyone has their own health that they're managing, and just seeing that transparency and openness about everything, whether it's the sourcing, your own personal experience, no judgment, and that in terms of product, like that's why I think a lot of people go back to a place like Better Ways.
Yeah.
We've used some of your creams and ointments, and we continue to use them whenever we have issues. And it seems to be the only things that work outside of using harsh, pharmaceuticals, which we don't want to use excessively, And it's like it's another thing that we have to help, and we can see the effects of it. But even more so than a pharmaceutical, like I know the sourcing, what's in it, I know how it's manufactured because of the relationship with the business.
Yeah.
And that's something you don't see anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah. That open and honesty is so unique.
Yeah.
And so people can walk into the store and really ask their questions and get their education, and then make a decision from there.
They can, absolutely. And even if they need to go back, I've relayed information with physicians and sending them test results and breaking down sourcing or educating them.
Yeah.
There's some of them out there that are, they're like, well, duh, there's a medical marijuana program. Of course there's medicinal benefits to this, or that program wouldn't even exist.
Of course.
When you're going to a dispensary, it's a night and day encounter that you're having with the overall experience. I mean, you're at the line of people that you're waiting for.
Yeah.
It's very much almost like a pharmacy. Like you're walking in to get, your Advil or whatever, and you're in and out, and you're paying with your card, and it's not a relationship where you're actually discussing the effects of the medicine, and having ownership of it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and they don't have the same timetable. It's the same 15 minutes in and out, or more or less, I should say.
Yeah.
I've been to a few dispensaries. I've had mixed experiences. There is a significant lack of diversity in products. It's, again, really telling that, like, I can't look at the flower before I buy it. Once I buy it and it's out of the store, they can't accept it back.
Right.
Sure. But I also, out of my own spirit, I'm hopeful. Mm-hmm. That's really been at times the only thing driving me through all this.
Hope
and a dedication to the plant, and that there are new licensees that will be coming online. I'm hopeful that some of those Connecticut natives or smaller groups will start shifting the paradigm and reorganizing this. It's hard to see all of it moving so quickly, but on the legislative side, it moving so slowly.
Right.
Because, and I've sent these audio testimonials. There's been tons of anecdotal evidence. So if our listeners have had less than ideal interactions, just keep writing to the legislators, write to their aides, send them a letter, just say this system it needs a lot of work. Listen to the activists, open up more licensing, have more testing having more testing facilities in the state. There's only one. There was two. It shut down. I'm sorry, in terms of logic and
the testing facility is testing the manufactured products,
the medical and recreational products.
Yeah.
But how can you say there's third party lab? How can you say that it's unbiased,
right,
when there's only one company doing it?
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
There's, in other states, there's issues with companies paying testing facilities to manipulate cannabinoid levels, heavy metal levels, terpene profiles. Terpene, that's another component. So the cannabinoids are the molecules in the plant. And the terpenes in the cannabis industry, those are the naturally forming essential oils on the plant material.
Okay. Yeah.
Essential oils like Young Living and doTERRA have healing properties. That's why lavender is full of linalool, is calming and sedative and relaxes you. It's the same thing what gives the cannabis plant its smell and taste. Yeah. So when they microwave it or when they soak it in ozone, they break the molecular bonds of the cannabinoids. They're degrading the essential oil profile. So right out the gate, because they're growing it so fast and it's at this level that's like not really safe, then they nuke it. And then they test it. And then they're like, yeah, that's medical grade. Mm-hmm. How? Medical grade it's like bourbon. There's a process. You can't rush this stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Medical grade cannabis will always only ever be small batch craft. People who put 70 to 80 hours a week into their tents, into their gardens.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm talking about like a real dedication to a handful of plants to make the best meds.
Yeah.
Versus I'm going to have a 700,000 square foot indoor facility where environmental issues of mold and bacteria and powdery mildew and aphids and pest management issues and okay, you're mass producing this plant. It's Bud Light.
Yeah.
And you will have those people. And I'm not saying there's anything. I think what's occurring is, from a business practice, is concerning. Whether it's wrong or right, this is America. people will make their own decisions that way.
Of course.
But in terms of the quality of the product and how it's marketed, and just the novelty of walking into a store and being able to purchase cannabis, people are like, well, it must be safe.
Yeah.
It must be really good if they're getting a license.
Yeah, I think if there's anything we've learned over the course of many, many years, it's that just because it's on the shelf doesn't necessarily make it safe or good for you.
Right.
And I think, all of us as consumers need to be discerning. We all have to be involved. Yeah. And, I feel like I've just been given a huge education just in the last 40 minutes or so we've been talking. And I appreciate, there's just so much information and so many more things to kind of.
There's so much. The plant, that's why it's such a dynamic conversation, because we could probably be here for another 10 hours, because the plant touches social equity and justice and farmers and patients and medicine and industrial hemp and technology. Like, there are so many different ways that this plant goes and touches, but it truly is every aspect of society.
Yeah.
And people have to start looking at it that way.
Sure. Yeah.
Really looking at this to enrich their lives. I can't wait for more hemp-based plastics and biofuels. And, the year of the Marijuana Prohibition Act, Henry Ford built a car made of hemp fiber that ran on hemp fuel.
Wow, that's
He was starting a program in the Midwest where people could grow industrial hemp in their small suburban 1 acre yard, send that raw material in, and grow and fuel their own car.
That's incredible. Sounds like there's a lot of opportunities for those young entrepreneurs out there to get involved in this industry and really make some change. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. And
I'm so grateful for this invitation.
The information that you've shared is overwhelming and amazing. And I can feel, the passion that you have for this, the frustration that you have for what's going on. And I do hope that you continue to do good work and make the world a better place. Tell us again if people want to find you or where to go.
Absolutely. So our new updated website, BetterWaysCT.com, or on social media on Facebook or Instagram is Better Ways LLC. And come on down to the store, 1122 Main Street, downtown Branford. And we have, a great team with us. And even better is we have an amazing community and network of like-minded people.
Fantastic.
As passionate and gifted and knowledgeable. And it's a scary time right now.
Yeah.
Because it's new.
Yeah.
But it really truly is a wonderful time to be making the landscape in the cannabis industry evolve here in New England.
Yeah. Exciting times for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for being here, Duncan.
You're very
Appreciate
welcome.
having you on the show.
Thank you, Dave.
Sounds of Health is brought to you by Nutmeg Insurance Advisors and recorded at the offices of Nutmeg Advisory Group. The podcast is produced by Jason Carubia and Dave MacNiven with music by Rob Hames. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Your support means a lot to us, and we appreciate it when you like, subscribe, and leave a review. If you know someone who you think should be a guest on the show, please email us at soundsofhealthpodcast@gmail.com. Each week, we spotlight the stories, people, and resources that inspire and motivate others to improve their health, and we are just getting started. Help us to share these sounds, and don't keep us a secret.